headquartered in Tel Aviv. One of the interviews was with Galei Tzahal, was probably the most popular show at this time of the day. It's a program that runs every evening in Galei Tzahal while everybody's going home and stuck in traffic. They're listening to Yaakov Bardugo and Yaron Vilensky. Okay, what's the name of the program? I don't know. It's Chamesh Ba'erev im. And this Bardugo guy is well-known as a real mumche, real expert with two things: sports, football, basketball, sports, and politics. And he explained the other guy all the time what's going on. It's fascinating how this show goes. You should listen once, even though your English speakers try to open Galei Tzahal. It's the most popular show.
But he's not a left-winger.
What?
That's the main thing. He's not left.
Bardugo, no, but somewhere around Likud.
Okay. Could be worse.
We'll talk about it soon. So I got on air. I'm talking from my phone, from this little phone over there, and suddenly this Bardugo guy says, "Look, I wanted to have with you this interview with you because I got an inside information from two of the big parties in Israel. I don't know, it was Likud and Lapid, or Lapid and Labor, I don't know. At least one of them I do know, by the way, it doesn't matter. They doing their surveys every week. They have money, tons of money. Taktiv mimun bchirot, it comes from our pockets, by the way. And they check and they do surveys, and somehow he got this information from those other parties. And he said to me, open on air, hundreds of thousands of Israelis are listening. It was all in Hebrew, otherwise I would show it to you. He says to me, and I realize from these two sources, that have no interest in Zehut, of course, that your party is getting an incredible amount of support from the people. And how come that happened? No one hears about you. What's going on? He mentioned 15 mandates, things. So he told me, and his question was, do you think you are going to be the next election surprise? I couldn't ask for more than that. what else, to get such a present from the media at the end of a day like that? So I told him, yes, I definitely believe so, Bezrat Hashem. And I'm not surprised, because just half a year ago, we had a convention in Tel Aviv, in Hangar 11, the port of Tel Aviv. If you know the place, is maybe the biggest hole in Tel Aviv. And thousands of people came in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. People working. We didn't bring buses of workers or people that depend on us or anything like that. People came from their own will, from all sides of the Israeli society, religious, non-religious, olim, vatikim, whatever. Everybody was there, and we feel that something is happening. So I'm not surprised, and yes, God willing, this is going to happen. Of course, I can tell you that also now I'm coming from a very important meeting with that hopefully will bring us even more support from another very important part of the Israeli society. However, it seems like that these ideas that we develop since Zohar Tzenu time until today, the concept of Jewish leadership, which I'll speak about immediately. It's like a baby that is ready to born. A real revolution, a real new direction, a real new kind of leadership to the state of Israel can can rise. We can bring the change. We can bring a real change. Can anybody tell me what's the difference between the two-state solution of Netanyahu and the two-state solution of Avi Gabay or Bougie Herzog?
Well, only maybe that Netanyahu doesn't really mean it.
He
Maybe.
doesn't really mean it. It's a big difference. Very big difference.
What's the difference? Lo shmati.
Netanyahu doesn't mean it.
Maybe Bibi doesn't mean it. Just maybe.
This is great. For me as a politician, your answer is that I should hug you. If I would be Bibi, I'll hug you and kiss you. It means I can do whatever I want, and everybody's happy. The left is happy because I said what they wanted to hear, and you're happy because you cannot swallow the fact that I really mean it. So you're defending yourself because you have no alternative. So what do? You're telling yourself he doesn't really mean it. So, and I'm staying in power. I can do whatever I want. No responsibility. I said what I wanted to do. The fact that you decided that I don't mean it, it's your problem, not mine, and I'm covered. It's great. It's wonderful. And then when the bulldozers goes on Amona, you can only blame yourself because you didn't listen to my lips. You decide that you understand that I mean something else. It happens again and again. Again and again. So don't you realize that we are the biggest, excuse me for saying so, biggest, I don't know, friars, suckers, whatever you call it. He is talking about two-state solution, dividing the land. He's saying that this land belongs to a different nation. Neum Bar Ilan, the Bar Ilan plan, Binyamin Netanyahu. What do you mean he doesn't mean it? The whole world is listening to it. All the world is looking at you as the last colonialists on earth, right? Because your prime minister himself is saying that you're sitting in land that does not belong to you. What do you mean it doesn't mean it? And does it make any change if he means another? He's saying it. He's the head of this country. He's saying this land belongs to others. What does it mean? So again, what's the difference between a two-state solution of Netanyahu and a two-state solution of the Herzog? What's the difference between the concept of dividing the land that Yair Lapid is talking about and dividing the land that Bennett is talking about? What's the difference? Can anybody tell me what's the difference between the clans? What is the difference between autonomy plus, what Bennett is talking about, and a state minus, Netanyahu is talking about? Can anybody tell me?
Let me ask you. Doesn't Bennett say we already have a two-state solution? I think he's who said there already exist two states.
You think this is what he's saying? Yeah.
To me, it looks like there are two states. We're already trying the two-state
solution. So what's the difference?
It's not working.
Do you see what I'm trying to tell you is that we have here in Israel kind of democracy, great democracy. We can vote for different parties. There's a lot of parties to vote for. We can vote for many people, different people, but we can vote only for one idea. Because they're all saying the same. You hoping that it doesn't mean it. You saying that it already exists, but it comes out, it's just like a cube, Hungarian cube. They're all saying the same things. Okay, packaging, wrapping it in a different way a little bit, so you can swallow it. You can swallow it. I don't really mean it. But they're talking about the same thing. Bennett is talking about Area C, Area B, Area A. What is the language that everybody's talking about? The language of Oslo. Today, I think this week, is the birthday of Oslo. And you and I sat in the Migdash Avusim, right? You were arrested at those demonstrations of Zuhar Tzayinu at the time. That we demonstrate, we try to stop Oslo. Only those who really fought against Oslo, kept their soul liberated from that language, from that concept, from that conscience of Oslo and can come out now with a real solution. As Yishai Fleisher said before, go back, erase all this big mistake and come out with one-state solution, not two-state solution. Saying that the whole land belongs to the Jews and only to the Jews. Explaining what is the real solution, and I want to show it to you.
What's the difference?
Oslo. What did we want? Peace? Security? We got war. For more than 20 years, we've clung to the Oslo Accords hoping for what? The terror attacks haven't ended. The missiles continue to drop on our cities. The country has shrunk, and
Okay. Maybe we'll turn off this light. Sure.
we want peace? Security? We got war. For more than 20 years, we've clung to the Oslo Accords hoping for what? The terror attacks haven't ended. The missiles continue to drop on our cities. The country has shrunk, and we even expelled Jews from their homes. And what did we get in exchange? Thousands of fatalities and wounded, 5 times more than in the period preceding Oslo. The Oslo process was supposed to save on security costs and foster prosperity. But in practice, it has cost over 1 trillion shekels. Hear that? 1 trillion. In January 2014, Dr. Ron Pundak, one of the architects of Oslo, admitted, peace is not the goal. It is the means of Israelization of Israeli society instead of its Judaization. Get it? We're not paying the horrific price of Oslo for peace or security, but to settle the internal battle over Israel's national identity, to make Israel a state of all its citizens rather than a Jewish state. We of the Zehut party are proud to say, not a country of all its citizens, but rather one country for one nation with one God. In other words, a Jewish state. We also demand an end to the occupation, but our solution is not flight from our identity and our land, but just the opposite. Faithfulness to our identity and loyalty to the land. What's our plan? First of all, let's put the facts on the table. 1. This is our land. The land between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea is the land of Israel and not the land of Ishmael. This is the land of the Jewish nation, exclusively. Second, when we say that openly and proudly, international law recognizes it, and the Levy report already showed that. Third, time is on our side. Israeli demographics is winning. Within 15 years, there will be a Jewish majority of 80% between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River. Fourth, most of the non-Jewish residents of this area would like to emigrate, and some of them have already done so. So Zehut proposes a multi-stage plan, nullification of the accords and restoration of the judicial status to its pre-Oslo state. Terrorists will be offered the option to withdraw without bloodshed, just as the PLO retreated from Lebanon in 1982. The IDF will reassert control over the entire area just as it did in Operation Defensive Shield. And the State of Israel will exercise full sovereignty over the entire country. No entity other than the IDF and the Israeli police will bear arms anywhere between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean. And what about the non-Jewish residents? They will be able to choose between 3 options. We will help those residents who are interested to sell their property and to emigrate to wherever they wish. Those who stay and openly declare their loyalty to Israel will receive permanent resident status in the country of the Jewish people, just like residents of other Western countries. The few who wish to become loyal Israeli citizens and serve in the army, like the Druze community in Israel, for example, will be able to receive full citizenship following a lengthy and in-depth examination. As soon as we, as Jews, determine our identity and stop acting like conquerors in our own land, the world will follow suit, leave the conflict behind, and accept our legal sovereignty. Does anybody remember that the world opposed the establishment of Nahariya, which was outside the borders of the partition plan? Does anybody remember that the left opposed the establishment of Carmiel? Does anybody remember the staunch opposition to Israel's bombing of the Iraqi nuclear plant? And today the world only thanks us for it. The center of Israel will be open for settlement, construction, and economic development, and we won't bequeath the problem of territories and terror to future generations. Instead, Israel will be a sovereign, secure, and prosperous state. Zehut, liberty, purpose, and Jewish identity.
Okay, so you see that, by the way, does it look like a genius plan? I don't think so. I don't think what?
Moral clarity.
It is actually so simple, no?
Yeah, that's why it's great.
It's legal,
That's why it's brilliant.
it's democratic.
It's not complicated.
It's not complicated. So how come, very seriously speaking now, it is so simple, it is so true, and you need no one to rely on. You just go ahead and do it, right? You don't need the Americans, you don't need the Saudians, you don't need the Egyptians, you don't even need the Arabs' permission, okay? You just do it and bring peace. That's the road for peace, right? And know that our children will have to continue what we rolling, this situation. When I was 18, I went to the army. They brought me to an army base far away from everywhere, right here in the Gush. There's an army base right... Chativat...
היה הנדסה.
Yeah, I'm in Handasa, engineering forces.
We all have
So they brought me here. I was 18. My son is in the army now. Found himself in the same base. 30. What? There was.
Did you find your graffiti on the wall?
Maybe he still found my graffiti. If you would have told me that when I'm 55 today. If you would have told me when I was 18 and everything here was empty. We didn't need to guard ourselves. We tramped home by ourselves from Tzomot Gush and from everywhere. Okay, if you would tell me that my son, when my youngest son will go to the army, he will find himself at the same base, guarding basically himself here in Tzomot Gush, like 16 hours a day, standing with full uniform, waiting for terrorists, I would laugh. So by not doing this, how is it going to be with his son? Okay, in another 20 years. It's ridiculous. We have to stop it. We have to stop this rolling responsibility to the next generation. Throw on the next generation what weren't able to do. Anyhow, it is so simple. It is so clear. It is so true. Nothing genius about this plan. Why no one thought about it before? How come? Because we're so smart? We're genius? No. That's not the reason. We're not smarter than anyone else. The reason is because our mind is free from Oslo. And the reason is because of Zehut, because we really fought against Zehut at those times. If you keep your mind free, you stayed free. Even though we couldn't stop it, but we fought. We sat in jail because of that, right? We did everything we could. That's why today these forces that fought can come out from. They say, "En asir motzi atzmo mibet asurim." When you imprison yourself, you can't take out others. We kept our soul free. We kept ourselves out of the prison of Oslo. And that's why we can drag Am Yisrael out of this position and come out with plans like that. However, when we came to the streets in 1995, the concept of civil disobedience, passive civil disobedience, all these ideas that the country belongs to the people, not the people to the country, these concept of liberty, these concept of free mind citizens that understands our rights, okay? Something more started to develop over here. Besides loyalty to the land, the whole relationship between the citizen and his country, okay? Things that you as an Americans can understand easy, but here in Israel, they don't understand from it. The centralized. We have today a government. In Israel, they used to have a government that basically control the whole life. Mostly with the economy, but also education, and all sorts of life. So slowly but surely, through all these years that passed since then, we developed holistic concept of how a Jewish state, libertarian Jewish state, and the concept of Judaism is liberty. The basic idea of Judaism is liberty under the wings of one God. We all equal under the wings of one God. That's the message of Judaism. Where did the founding fathers of America try to establish a state of liberty? Where did they take all these concepts from? From the Bible, from us. So let's bring it back to the source and create a Jewish state based on liberty, based on faith, based on loyalty. And we, for the first time in Israeli politics history, we wrote a platform. This is the platform of the Zehut party, believe it or not. 312 pages. The Likud party, for example, that you mentioned before, don't even have one page. They don't have a platform at all. Okay? Other parties that do have a platform basically have a platform of being written by what? Marketing people, exactly. I mean, no, not you, but here you have. I see this book as the biggest present that the Zehut party already gave to the people of Israel. And we're not talking only about the settlements, the Arabs, the territories, the solution for the political situation, as you saw right now. We also talk about economy, and I want to show you what do we mean by that. Again, lights, camera. That's the action.
Israel is a wealthy country. Its economy has grown tenfold in the last 3 decades. But is it easy for a young couple to purchase an apartment today? Are supermarket prices lower? Is anybody's income enough to cover their monthly expenses? Wherever the state's involved, the money stays with those closest to the trough. In those few places where the state's not involved, there's growth. Israel isn't capitalist or socialist. It's protectionist. In a wealthy state, there's no reason why we should be working more than most countries of the West while earning the least and having the highest cost of living. We must do something different. First of all, housing. As long as the land belongs to the state, apartment prices will continue to rise. Zehut will close the Israel Land Authority, return the land to the citizens, and create a simple, effective mechanism. Next, the high cost of living. When the Israel Standards Institute decides that Heinz is not ketchup, Osem makes money, but you lose. Zehut will eliminate the biased standards, taxes, and regulations and open the market to imports. Instead of paying the government, we'll leave the money in your pocket. And who do you think pays for the inflated government apparatus of 1 million workers? Zehut will reduce the number of ministers, streamline public services, and again, leave the money in your pocket. When heavy taxes erode most of your salary, it's not worthwhile for the rich to work in Israel, and for the poor, it's not worthwhile working at all. Zehut will introduce a low uniform tax for both private citizens and businesses, a tax that everyone will be willing to pay. Those who evade the tax will be dealt with severely. With Zehut, the economy will be free, and Israel will be one of the wealthiest nations in the world. But the money won't be tied up in an inflated apparatus. It will reach the pockets of the citizens. Zehut, liberty, purpose, and Jewish identity.
Okay. Now, when we're talking about economy, you can turn on the light there. When we're talking about economy, what? Okay. You can hear me in the dark too. Okay. When we are talking about economy, we are talking about much more of just the wealth of the people. We're talking about their basic liberty. And we're talking about our ability as a Jewish state to fulfill our mission. And I'll give you a very simple example for that. When a Jewish doctor in France, for example, okay, wants to make aliyah, because there is anti-Semitism today in France, and he wants to come with his family to Israel. Will he find a job in one of the Israeli hospitals? Probably not. Because the Israeli market, which is totally centralized, did not create these jobs. Okay? So this Jewish French doctor had a very poor chance to find a job in his profession in Israel. And even if he will find a job in Israel, the salary he'll get here in Israel will look ridiculous to him. He will not understand when he will do his calculation. He will never understand how can he make a living here. So what happens? He goes to Canada or to New York. He very fast finds a job as a doctor, and he's making good money over there. And everything is fine and dandy. There's only one problem. His kids are not going to be Jewish. So when we're talking about economy and our ability to take this unbelievable blessing that Hashem is pouring on us, because our economical situation, the macro position, economical position of Israel is great, but but the involvement of the state, of the government in the economy create a situation that this guy don't find a job, and his kids most probably will not remain Jewish. And we can and all these great numbers of Israeli economy doesn't mean much when the only real waves of aliyah comes from poor countries. Comes from Russia, East Europe, Arab countries. Did you ever hear about a huge wave of aliyah from the United States or from Australia? Or from West Europe? Never. This is the real test for the Israeli economy. And the Israeli economy always, since 1948, failed that test. Okay? So economy is very, very important. And being that the light is off anyhow, we'll leave it on. We'll leave it on. I want to show you one more movie about the most important thing, which is education. Okay, I'll just tell you one word about it, and look. Who's in charge in Israel on the education of our kids?
Education committees.
No.
Committees.
Not even that. Not even Misad HaChinuch. The Chinuch minister. He's in charge. I mean, the most precious, most important thing that we have in our life What? מפורש בחוק. There's a law. So if you wanna educate your kid by yourself, take responsibility for the
I
education.
do that, so I know how it goes.
So you
It's
know
very
what I'm talking
difficult.
about.
Yes.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
מצווה על האב לחנך ללמד בנות תורה, this says the Rambam. The Rambam says the responsibility, the mitzvah of teaching the kid Torah is not the community, is not the state, is not the country, is not the king, it's the father. Okay? It's his responsibility. But our father is Benjamin Netanyahu, just like in Russia. Okay? The state is our father and mother. Okay? And they should educate us and feed us and take care of us and do everything. Of course, from our money, our pocket money. I mean, I'll show you the last movie, but just one detail that when you'll hear it, your ears will pop. The Israeli real budget for education is one of the biggest in the world. I think we are number 6 in the world. Higher than per student. What? Per student. I'll talk about it. It is higher than the defense budget. I'm talking about when you're collecting the budget of the educational office, and together with the budgets of the municipalities, the real national budget for education is higher, or even much higher, than what we're spending on our military and on our defense. It comes out to 3,000 shekel per student per month. So the state of Israel takes from our taxes enough money to give us back to each children in a system 3,000 shekel. Now you tell me, do your kids getting 3,000 shekels a month? A class in Israel is one of the has more children than one of the most crowded classes in the world. The teachers get very poor salaries. The level of education in Israel in all the international tests, it's called the PISA tests, that compare their achievements to students all over the world, are one of the poorest in the world, and we're spending more money than anybody else. What's going on here? And we are Jewish. Okay? We are the nation that brings all these, Nobel prizes. What's going on here? Let me show you the Zehut solution.
Our children are our true treasure, and not only that, they're the future of the country. But wait, who's really responsible for their education? Ostensibly, we are, the parents. But by law, the party solely responsible for our children's education is the Ministry of Education. Did you get that? Despite the
Second, let the projector.
fact that Israel's national expenditure on education is the highest, the results are dismal. Israel's students are ranked low in reading and math, and funding is not the problem. The country allocates thousands of shekels per month, but most of it doesn't reach the teachers or students. The money is simply swallowed by a huge, cumbersome bureaucracy called the Ministry of Education. So, what can we do? We must restore the responsibility and funding to our hands. Zehut has an innovative and comprehensive plan for improving Israel's level of education. A voucher method which is already successful in progressive countries like Sweden and Finland. This method does away with the registration zones, and we the parents will receive most of the funding in the form of education vouchers. This way, we'll be able to choose the educational institution we prefer. Competition will be created in the educational system for the right to teach our children. The best teachers will be entitled to the highest salaries in the economy. Even private high-quality boutique schools will join the competition. In this way, we'll raise the level of the entire educational system in Israel. Believe it or not, this already works well elsewhere in Israel. The Social Security vouchers for expectant mothers. Instead of our children serving the system, the responsibility will be restored to the parents, and the system will start serving the children. Zehut, liberty, purpose, and Jewish identity.
Okay, I think that you got the idea. We're having here a real party, not just another party to serve some individual dishes, with real ideas, with real political way of working, clear and honest, and new politics. New politics. A party that, as Bardugo said, okay, has a very serious potential. This is the future of Israel in our hand. Join us. Questions?
Questions?